I'm RENÉE SNOW. I'm the chair of the Certified Financial Planning Program at UC Santa Cruz, Silicon Valley. And this is our program overview info session. So in tonight's agenda, we are going to go over what does a financial planner do? What are the critical skills needed? What's the career path and income range? What are the licensing requirements and how to become a certified financial planner? So this is tonight's agenda. We're also going to go over the program at UC Santa Cruz Extension, the courses that are offered here, the requirements for successful completion, and you'll meet a couple of the instructors. In fact, I have two of them here right now, CYNTHIA Rileey and Eric Saul. They both teach actually the introductory classes of math and the survey class. Tonight, we'll also talk about beyond the program, what happens after you graduate, exam prep courses, and professional organizations that you can join. A financial planner helps individuals determine whether and how they can meet their life goals through the proper management of financial resources. That differs from a lot of people's conceptions of financial planning. A lot of people associate it with managing portfolios, and actually, the CFP designation is much broader and touches on a variety of areas of a client's financial life. We use a process that includes the collection and analysis of data. Planners provide advice on all areas of a person's financial life, including income tax management, employee benefits, which are really, I don't know if all of you who have joined on the Zoom are local, but in Silicon Valley, employee benefits can be kind of complicated, and we have a whole class devoted to those. Retirement planning, estate planning, insurance, or we call that class risk management, and investments. So the critical skills that are needed to be successful in the industry are financial education and background. So it's helpful to have experience with data gathering, problem analysis, math skills. And in the Valley, again, people tend to be really strong in those areas as well as with computer skills. So almost all planners use some sort of financial planning software, Excel, those types of things. And communication, computer communication, interpersonal skills. To me, this is the most important one. Being able to empathize and listen and sometimes counsel clients versus giving advice. This is a people business. It's not just a sit behind the desk, look at stocks and analyze them all day. You're actually interacting with people and helping them with their goals. So having that interpersonal touch is really important. There are several ways that you can be a CFP and industries that you can be a part of. So some people affiliate with broker-dealers. Usually when I give this talk in a classroom, I'll ask the audience, do you know what a broker-dealer is? Some examples would be like Morgan Stanley, Schwab. Those are examples of broker-dealers that you can affiliate with. Insurance companies, sometimes insurance companies hire CFPs. Typically, if you're working for an insurance company, you're working on commission. Financial planning firms, and I would say the majority of our students at UCSC end up at planning firms in the Valley. Here you are most often paid a starting salary, and you pay your dues by inputting financial plans and sitting in on client planning engagements, and before long you'll be able to work with your own clients. Accounting or law firms, that's actually how I got my start. I worked for a CPA firm starting out and was paid a salary and did financial planning for their clients. Or you can go out on your own. Now, I want to say it's a little dangerous to hang out your shingle because you don't know what you don't know. And we're dealing with things that don't always go according to plan. The stock market is very volatile, and if you're managing money and you're out on your own and something disastrous happens, you probably would benefit from having the experience of being with somebody who's been there before and knows how to handle the situation. So I think it's really helpful to work for somebody else before hanging out your own shingle. Although if you do have that previous experience, and maybe some of you in the audience are already in the industry, that's a way that you could enter the industry as well. entry level salaries I'm seeing are between 50 and 100,000. Some firms in the Valley, want entry level part-time people, and so that's more on the lower range. Full-time can be up to around 100,000 is what I'm seeing being offered to our recent graduates. Experienced planners, I mean, the sky is the limit. I know some people who are making millions of dollars in this industry. It's really up to you and how you've structured your career, what kind of, how much stress you want to take on, how many clients you want to take on, and that type of thing. So, but generally, after you've paid your dues, it's a pretty well-paying career. The types of compensation that we receive as CFPs varies. So some people, and I would say this is declining quite a bit, work on commission only. And a lot of those people work for insurance companies. But for the types of compensation, again, commission business, there's been a bunch of new legislation out there, something called the best interest rule. Obama started this while he was in office. Some of the things have still been carried out. There's something called a fiduciary rule or best interest rule now. So it's becoming harder and harder to practice as a commission-only person in the field. There's much more regulation about it. There are also fee-only and fee-based planners. Fee-only are people who only take like hourly fees or retainers. Fee-based means that you are taking hourly retainer, hourly fees, or doing a percentage of assets under management. Maybe you've heard of that, where you get paid 1% for managing a portfolio. And then we have people who earn both fees and commissions. And finally, we have salary employees. And a lot of the students in the program who get into the industry start out as interns, and they're working on a salary as an intern before they transition to one of these other models. So what are the licensing requirements? The CFP is actually a designation. It's not a license. It doesn't give you the authority to do anything. It's just a designation that alerts the public that you've achieved a certain level of education and training, and that you've passed successfully a very hard exam. There are licenses that you'll need to get to practice in the industry. And so you'll need a license if you want to recommend stocks or bonds or mutual funds. So these are called the Series 7, Series 6 licenses. Those are commission-based licenses. In order to get them, you need to be affiliated with, thank you, Angelique said, Series 7, Series 6, 63, or 66. So in order to sit for those exams, you'll need to affiliate with a broker-dealer like Morgan Stanley, and they sponsor you to go and sit for these exams. These to recommend a stock or bond or mutual fund and earn a commission for that recommendation or a trading fee, you have to be affiliated with a broker-dealer. They have to sponsor you to sit for those exams. You just can't go and take them on your own and say, I'm a stockbroker now. You actually have to be sponsored by one of the broker-dealer firms. To recommend insurance products, you need an insurance license. Real estate or loan brokerages require a real estate license. To provide legal or tax services, you need to be an attorney or an EA or a CPA. And finally, this is becoming dominant in the industry. To provide investment advice, you would be an investment advisor representative of a registered investment advisory firm. And more, even broker-dealers have an investment advisory arm to their broker-dealer now. So this is becoming more common with regulation and also just with public awareness of the conflicts of interest that occur when somebody works on commission. So the nice thing about giving investment advice is typically your interest as an investment advisor are more aligned with your client's interest. The industry is moving in that direction. So to provide investment advice, you have to be a registered investment advisor or work for a registered investment advisor. In order to do that, if you wanted to create your own registered investment advisory, you would have to submit a big legal document called the Form ADV, pay a fee, and take a securities examination. This securities examination does not need to be sponsored by a broker-dealer. This is one that you could just take on your own and register for your own. A registered representative is somebody who is sponsored by a FINRA broker-dealer. And again, they have to complete the required examinations, which typically include, the most common is the Series 7. So in order to become a certified financial planner, you'll need 4 E's. Education, that's what we provide here at UC Santa Cruz. Examination, there's a big test at the end of this. It's now given at Prometric. It's 6 hours, and it is a very difficult exam. I think the recent passing rates were around a little under 60%. The passing rates tend to be between 50 and 60%. You'll need experience and you'll need ethics. One of my favorite things about being a CFP is something called the fiduciary requirement. And a fiduciary is just somebody who's obligated to put the needs of the client ahead of your own. You have it's a higher standard of care for clients than a best interest rule, for instance. So the education requirement, you'll need a bachelor's degree in any discipline. So it could be English. You have an English degree, BA in English, and still become a CFP. Complete an education program at a college or university that's registered with the CFP board. We are, so we fulfill that requirement. Submit transcript or review of previous financial planning coursework. So if you've already done previous financial coursework, you could get some of the classes waived, or show that you've earned certain professional designations or academic degrees. So if you're a JD or a chartered financial analyst, a CPA, you can get out of all of the classes except for the very last class, which the CFP board calls the capstone class. In our program, it's called the practicum class, and that's the one that I teach at the very end of the program. You still have to register for that program, but you can skip all the others if you have certain credentials. All right, you have to pass, I've already mentioned this big exam called this, by the CFP board. It's at Prometric. Here is a 7-hour, and now Tren, you said it's 6? I wonder if it got shorter.
3 hours in the morning and then 3 hours in the afternoon. You get a 40-minute lunch break.
Maybe they're including the lunch break here. That's my guess. It's going to take you 7 hours to be there, right? Okay. It's offered during 3 5-day testing windows each year in March, July, and November. Experience. Okay, so you also need field experience, kind of like if you're becoming a doctor, you need to do your residency. Here you need to work in the industry, either work for 3 years or 6,000 hours in a financial planning related position. And you have to demonstrate that you've been working with clients on financial goals, or you can go the fast track. Under the fast track, you can work for 2 years or 4,000 hours under the direct supervision of another CFP, and you have to perform or engage in all the steps of financial planning process. And the CFP who you're working for has to sign off on your hours. So you can earn these hours before or after taking the exam. What I like to tell people who enroll in our program, if they're not already in the industry and they are looking to start or transition in, is to try to get an internship while you're enrolled as a student, if you have the bandwidth and aren't holding another job, because that will give you, you'll start chipping away at those hours, because it would be really nice if after you took the exam, you'd completed a portion of those hours or were actually already done with them, and you could already, hold that CFP designation.
Can I add something, Renee?
Sure.
That the hours can be earned, I think it's 10 years before and 5 years after you've completed the exam.
All right, all CFP candidates must sign an affidavit stating that they understand and agree to adhere to the CFP board's code of ethics and professional responsibility. And really the biggie here is that fiduciary requirement. In fact, in our industry, some firms ask their CFPs to turn in their designations because they wanted the CFP to be loyal first to the firm, their employer that they were working for, rather than put the clients first. So that's happened before, and it's just a testament to how seriously we take that fiduciary requirement to put clients' needs ahead of our own. So in addition to helping you meet the educational requirements to sit for the exam, we will provide you with the educational tools you'll need in order to succeed in practice. Here are the courses that are offered. We have applied math for financial planning, and really that's Cynthia's creation. She taught it for a number of years. She's passing the torch on to somebody, but it's really, this is actually an additional class. The CFP board does not mandate this class. We mandate it in our program because learning your financial calculator, embarrassingly, I use this. This is a Texas Instruments VA2 Plus, but knowing a financial calculator is essential, both for the test and also in practice. It's just something that is a foundation for the rest of the work in the program and in practice. And so we have a whole class devoted to math and financial planning and how to get familiar with that financial planning calculator.
I love teaching this class actually because what I do in this class is basically introduce all the students to all the other classes you're going to be taking. And so I usually have a guest speaker come in every week that's an expert in that area. For estate planning, we'd have an estate planning attorney come in and talk about what they do and how they work with financial planners and give a little overview. So it's a fun class because it's kind of your first introduction to all the other classes you're going to be taking.
People always say they really enjoy all the guest speakers too. It's like a
No, they don't have to listen to me talk all night.
it's a tapas of financial planning class. That's what I like to think of it. Then we have risk management or insurance, investments. That's usually the big draw. Everybody thinks that our whole careers are devoted to investments. They get all the glory. Tax planning, which is a specialty of mine and a very important part of financial planning, employee benefits and retirement planning, estate planning, and then finally practicum or the capstone class. And again, the first two classes, math and survey, are the prerequisites for entering the other classes. The grade requirements to earn a certificate to sit for the exam. You'll need a B or better in applied math, in the survey class, Eric's class, and in my class. You'll have to have a C or better in the remaining classes and an overall GPA of 3.0 or above. Beyond the program, so because the CFP exam is so rigorous, we do a really good job. In fact, I think we're not allowed to actually keep statistics. I can't stalk my students and say, hey, who passed or who didn't pass. I think that our pass rate, though, just because I tend to hear from almost all the students who go through the program, I think our pass rate is about 15 percentage points higher than the national average. That's kind of what I'm seeing. So, but we do recommend that students take an exam prep class because it is so rigorous and it can be stressful, and you'll just feel more prepared if you do that. There's a lot that makes our program unique from other CFP programs. The student forum, our ties to professional organizations here in the Valley, our networking, I spend a lot of time helping students get placed in the industry. So I actually send out resumes and I call employers for students saying, hey, this person's looking, and employers approach me. So we have job placement. Another thing that's really unique about our program is, unlike we've been forced to move to Zoom. We didn't want to move to Zoom. We were traditionally in class, in the classroom, meeting face to face. But since we are on Zoom, we're trying to make the best of a dire situation, and all of our instructors show up personally on Zoom and teach. We don't have asynchronistic classes where students just check in and post their homework assignments. We have interactive, as much as we can make them, classes where you'll get personalized one-on-one support and the best that we can offer a replica of a real classroom setting.
Thanks, Renee. So my name is Cynthia Riley, and Renee mentioned earlier, I've taught in the program I taught the applied math class for 14 years. I didn't create the student forum. That was created by a group of students probably back in 2007 or 2008. They wanted to create a group that would put on events and bring in speakers that would address topics of interest to the students. So although we have the Financial Planning Association, and that's a great place to go to network and things like that, they're more focused on people that are already in the profession. And so what these guys wanted to do was to create a group that was really more focused on the students and to the students' needs. And so for the last 10 years, it's been a long time, I've been leading a team of student volunteers, and we put on events of interest to the students. So it's a collaboration between our program here at the UCSC Extension and the Financial Planning Association of Silicon Valley. So for example, the UCSC is a sponsor of the FPA. If you look at any of the FPA's materials or their website, you'll see the UCSC Extension listed as one of their sponsors. There's a very tight relationship between the two groups. So we put on, here it says quarterly, we've moved to 3 times per year educational meetings, and it's open to all students in the program. They're open to prospective students as well, so we don't turn anybody away. They're not open to the general public. We don't want people coming in here trying to get their financial questions answered, their personal financial questions answered. But if you're a prospective student and you haven't decided whether or not you want to join, we encourage those folks to show up and see what the community is like. They're student driven. So even though I lead the team, the topics are selected by the student team members. Once or twice a year, we try to do joint sessions with the Financial Planning Association of Silicon Valley to do networking and education with them. You know, I'd have members approach me and say, "Hey, Cynthia, I've got a job. Can I announce it at the end of the session or at the beginning? You know, whenever you're doing announcements." And I'd say, "For sure." And so it's a really great place to come if you're transitioning into the practice, or if you're new to the area or whatever, that it's a great place to come and start developing your network. We also have a LinkedIn group that we do some posting on. We do a lot of panels, and panels they're great because you get to bring in a number of different perspectives on a certain point. Students are always interested in hearing from former students about their exam experience, you know, both pass and fail. Is like, what did you learn? How did you prepare for it? What are you going to do differently next time? A second example is the day in the life of. And so we try to bring in people that are representing different business models so they can talk about what it is that they're doing in their day-to-day lives. So the other thing I'd like to just make mention of briefly is the fact that these events are put on by volunteers, student volunteers. So the student forum would not be possible without those student volunteers. And it's a very special benefit, I think, in our program. As I don't think there's any other program. I've had other programs approach me and say, "How did you do what you're doing?" And I think it really adds a special benefit to the program.
One thing, we have a community. We've had a community. Some of the students who have been through the program are still my friends years and years later. You know, it becomes just a really great place, a supportive place to be.
And I'll say that for the team as well. I've got members of the team that finished the program 2 or 3 years ago, and they're still participating in the team because they like the community. So exactly that. So there's not really a typical student. We've got folks that are currently in the profession and they want to get their CFP designation, right? So we've got a number of people going through doing that. We've got people that are maybe in a tech career and they're looking to make a career change. And so they want to transition into a new career. So they want to go through the education process. We've had university students. I've had high school students. I mean, that was very surprising. But university students that want to graduate with both their bachelor's and the certificate at the same time so that they can, you know, hit the ground running. There's a good percentage of folks that are seeking to improve their knowledge of personal financial planning for their own and their family's benefit. You know, so there is no typical student. But the really nice thing, as Renee has mentioned, is that everybody comes together and creates a really, really nice community.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cheryl Santos, and I really, really enjoyed this program. I did not start out seeking a CFP or looking for another career. I spent a lot of years in the aerospace industry. I was over 50 and laid off, and now trying to figure out the rest of my life. And started looking at my retirement plan in much more detail than I ever had. Didn't like the answers I was getting from the people I was talking to because I didn't feel they were answering my questions. I have a bachelor's in finance. I also have a law degree. And what I love about this stuff is it's an integration of both of those for me. And so I was seeking information when I came to my first info session and was kind of hooked. The program, I can't say enough about it. It's really a good program. There's, I did do most of it in person, but my capstone class was on Zoom and it works just fine. We're lucky here in the Valley that a lot of people have the skills for technology and aren't afraid of it. So it really is a good tool. I just want to share with you that I think the value of the program is the instructors and their accessibility. They are very open to you, very helpful. And they're all different, but they're all coming from experience and expertise in their field. And I think the connection to the industry that's already been mentioned is really important. And the last thing is the students. As you engage in courses, for example, when we talked about investments, we had people in the class that had been through the experience of stock options. That was helpful to hear their perspective. In tax class, we had somebody from Canada who was concerned about foreign, being not a US citizen. She had special implications. So, the richness comes from all levels. And, I encourage you to participate in as much as you can. Sign up for CFPNet early on, participate in the student forum. That all adds to the richness of your experience.
I completed the program in June of last year. I can't believe it's been a year already. One of the reasons why I chose this program specifically was I'd done some research and gotten some feedback from previous students, and it was an in-person class. The classes were in person when I took them. And I had tried online classes before, and I'm not disciplined, so I need to physically be expected to be somewhere to, show up for class and prepare my work and things like that. And I found that when you went to the classes, as Cheryl said, you really developed a sense of community. When you start the program, you'll typically, whoever you start with, you'll see those people all throughout the other classes, and you develop kind of a cohort, and you make connections and study partners and things like that. But I think Cheryl spoke to the biggest thing for me, which was the professors. I think everybody was knowledgeable, everyone was accessible, and it really did provide for a rich experience. It wasn't, someone droning on about what was in the book. It was people who do this for a living, and people who have exposure to the field and bringing their experiences to bear to help better illustrate what's in the book. You can read the book for yourself. I joined the program because I am transitioning. So I have been in plan giving and financial services for quite some time, say 15, 20 years. And to me, this was my retirement job. So I'm planning to shift to this industry so I can better control my schedule. I can better, if I want to continue to work for the next 15 years, but 3 days a week. And I really just want to help people get their money together. I understand that financial health is a big deal, and it weighs on people both, emotionally and physically. And I just want to be able to help people. So I think, for whatever reason you're interested in this program, I think this is a great group. There's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of connection, and there's a lot of community.
I am Trin, and I just graduated this spring from RENÉE's capstone class. Cheryl and I are in the same cohort. I attended one of these info sessions mid-January of 2018, and literally the next week I was sitting in class already because I was just so jazzed about everything I heard at the session, and the topics sounded really interesting to me. It sounded very relevant, stuff that you can really apply just to your personal daily life. So every dollar you spend on this program is going to enhance your own personal life, as well as the people around you and your community. You can help out your friends and your family if they have questions. I used to be a teacher in my prior life, and I really care about like educating people, and I think financial education is very important, and I think this is a great career path to do that. I currently work for a nonprofit and in education, and I started taking the courses because it was a personal development for me, but also I thought, well, maybe this could be a career transition. Possibly my president, was also going to be transitioning out of our foundation here. We're getting a new president soon, and I thought that this might be a good kind of preparation for that transition for a career change. So I don't know today whether or not I'm going to, officially make that trigger point, but it certainly is an option, and it's a nice option to have in my back pocket should I need it. And I will echo what Angelique and Cheryl said about the program. The instructors are really fabulous. They know their stuff. They're very accessible. They just really care about the students and your success. So let's see what else. Teachers to students, again, you have a great cohort to go through the program with. You do see the same students over and over again, which is really nice. I'm still friends with some of my my classmates. We communicate over Gmail occasionally and check in with each other, see how we're doing on studying for the exam and what their next steps are. And I also like the idea of entering a profession that gives you greater flexibility in your work life, possibly. The sky's the limit. There's many different pathways you can take into the profession, depending on what your interests are. There's a place for everybody, right? You can end up in different firm types. You can go out on your own. You can work as hard as you want, or you can work not as hard as you want. Just depends on whatever your interests are. I really like that flexibility. I thought Renee's class was great on Zoom. I really enjoyed learning the Navi Plan software.
Yeah, I give all my students temporary free licenses to financial planning software. Does anyone have any questions for the students?
I'll jump in. Two things, Sarah. I think, first of all, I love the conversations about the cohort. So I was a career transitioner. I went through the UC Santa Cruz program years and years and years ago. I'm very involved in the Financial Planning Association, and I'm still really, a lot of people that I went through the program with and met as a result of both the program and the Financial Planning Association. They're a constant referral source, whether it's a referral to me or if it's not a good fit for me, I'm able to refer out. So this concept of, taking these classes, being surrounded by similar people that are either transitioning or maybe in the industry, and taking these classes along the way, you will build relationships with these people. It's not uncommon for study groups to start up, and then once you continue on, they continue on. So, it's just, I can't overemphasize the importance of that community. And then in addition to that, if you have the ability to join the FPA or get involved in the FPA, there's, it's just a fabulous resource on a lot of different levels. On the homework side, we cover quite a bit of material in that survey course. And so, I try and be respectful of, getting through that material and realizing that there's a lot of work. And so I don't necessarily assign a lot of projects. I do have an exam, a quiz. So, I expect everybody to read the material and cover the material. I don't assign a ton of homework after that. And what I do is for the final, we go over kind of a retirement plan of a couple, of a family.
Mhm.
And then I'll let people pick whatever they seem to be more passionate about. So, if someone's really into investments, everybody's going to have to answer some general questions about the case study. But then if somebody really wants to do a deep dive on investments, there's a couple questions that are generic enough that you can apply it to investments, or you can apply it to risk management or tax planning or whatever that is. So, I would say the big hurdle is just reading the material and being comfortable with the material. And, depending on how quick of a reader you are and how you digest information, it's anywhere from a couple hours to, 4 or 5 hours a week. We post, I ask, students to, if they find articles that are relevant or timely or, find interesting from different journals or newspapers or whatever source, podcasts or whatever they're listening to share that, we post that. And so there's additional things that you can do, but it's not, necessarily required. So, for my class, I would say on average 4 hours. It's interesting because this last time there was a new edition of the book. So I had to go back and, reread these chapters and make sure everything was jiving. So it was like, it made me kind of, realize how much work. And so I did some modification on a couple of these topics just to be respectful of that. But I'd say 4 or 5 hours.
So can I jump in for just a bit on the math?
Yeah.
So the math is highly dependent upon your math skills.
Yeah.
So for most folks, the math is a refresher of whatever, some high school and maybe a little bit of college math that they've taken. But we don't assume that, we do cover statistics in the class, but we don't assume that anybody's had it. So we start from the very beginning. So depending on your math skills, I tell my students to anticipate anywhere between 3 and 9 hours a week. And like Eric said, we're very respectful. So math is learned by repetition, but I never assigned more than, say, maybe 15 problems a week, even though I would have loved to have assigned 45. Because practice makes perfect, but I also recognize that people don't have the time. The other thing that's unusual about the math class is that, and the guy who I'm transitioning to, he's going to follow the same practice. The students have all of the detailed answers in advance. So when you're home working the math problems by yourself and you get stuck, you don't have to wait a week to come back to class to find out what you did wrong. You do your homework, and I tell the students, go check the detailed answers. And if you made a mistake, fix it and resubmit your homework, and you get full credit. So, I think other instructors do other things in terms of trying to enhance the learning experience, knowing that we're only meeting once a week for 3 and sometimes 4 hours. It's really hard to crunch everything in. But I think that the instructor for other opportunities to help further that experience. So that's my input.
Thank you.
Maybe we should hear
I'd
from
like to-
Carol. Yeah.
I'd like to offer some comments as well. In general, I want to definitely echo, what your background is going to make certain things easier or more difficult for you. And I think the reading is the most time consuming part. But also want you to recognize some of it you may need to do more of a careful reading on, and some of it's a higher level survey, kind of quick glance at it. And I think it's important to recognize your own learning style. And so, for example, I have a friend who was an engineer, and estate planning was more challenging for him. He just had very little experience in that. So he had to read at a deeper level. But the math, and the investment stuff was in his wheelhouse. So he spent very little time on that. Right. The opposite was true for me. So, just depends on where you come from, but, just be conscious and manage your time. The other thing I would say is that, the program recognizes, and all of the instructors recognize, that most people are working and they're doing this in addition to their jobs. So it's not like you're sitting around and you have, you know, a full week with nothing else to do. So there is balance, but you do need to recognize when you may need a deeper dive because you're the one ultimately creating your own learning.
Can I add to that? I think Cheryl hit it on the head. It depends on kind of where your strengths and known weaknesses are. If you're not a math person, then perhaps you'll need to spend more time with going through the problems. But I found my background is in tax, but I found that one of the neat things is that we use the same series of books. Renee, are you still going to use the same series of books? Yeah. So one of the good things about that is you'll get to learn the cadence of the books and different things like that. The questions will be similar. There'll be, you know, questions at the end of the chapter. There'll be things you can do online through the Dalton site. But I think, you know, you can do as much or you can do the minimum. I think it all depends on, you know, what you're going for. If you're trying to pass this class and you're trying to sit, you want to make sure you have a good grasp of things. If this is for your own, you know, personal knowledge and you're just trying to understand your, you know, employee benefits statement or things like that, it makes a difference. So I think the books were good. The website is good. The only class that was really, really super hard to me was Renee's class. No, I'm just kidding. It was, somebody asked about that. And basically what the capstone does is Renee blends everything together, everything that you've learned up until then. So there's insurance pieces, there's retirement pieces, there's income tax pieces, there's estate planning pieces, you have cases. All the skills that you've learned in the previous classes are what you have to apply to the problems in the capstone. And that one is really time intense. That was really a heavy duty class. But you learned a lot because you're working in the software, you get to learn how it works, different things to take into consideration. So I really thought it was a cool class. It's very practical.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I would say that we did a lot of case studies in Renee's class, which I appreciated because when I was preparing for the CFP exam, I felt like I didn't have to prep so much in the case study, but rather the other stuff, so I could focus my attention on non-case study. And I would say I particularly liked the UCSC program because it did offer classes in the evenings, and most of the students are full-time employees somewhere. There are students who are going to school full-time, but I'd say the majority of the students are working somewhere else at the moment, and they have a full workload somewhere else. They have families they have to attend to. And I would say the return on investment in terms of, the cost of the program is, I feel like I've already gotten my return on investment in terms of what I've learned and what I can apply in my everyday life. So if you went to get your MBA, I was researching, it was going to be like $120,000 to get my MBA. And this program was like less than $10,000, which, in today's environment is really a steal of a deal.
I echo that. I teach, also I'm an associate for faculty at a school in psychology in the doctoral program. So those students are paying $35,000 a year for their doctoral education. When they graduate, their expected salaries are like $75,000. So in my class, I have an ROI calculator. It's not a very good return on investment. And then I compare it to this program where you pay around $6,000. And right now, there have been changes in the industry. When I first took over as chair in 2009, there were more students than jobs. Right now, I have more employers seeking our students than I have students to give them. So it's a really interesting shift. And the students are getting some pretty good paying jobs right out of the get-go for $6,000 worth of education. So It's a very high ROI. Thanks for bringing that up.
And if you're currently employed like I am, I actually use my education benefits at work. So I basically have paid nothing for my program. So, go after those benefits if you have them.
That's a good call out.
There's some other resources too, depending where you are in your work life, right? If you are part of the downsizing that's occurring, or part of the layoffs due to the pandemic and whatnot, if you go to the EDD and you are looking for a job through them, they sometimes have training dollars available. So I would say check into that. If you log on to the cfp.net website and you sign up for, sign into that, create an account. I noticed this summer that they had some scholarship resources available. So I think it's worth the time to investigate some resources, but I also looked at it on a course by course basis, which really made the equation even that much better. Rather than looking at the totality of the costs, because what I got out of each course was so very different. And just, like I said, it's important to balance your money, right? That's what financial planning is about. And so food for thought.
Not just balancing your money, but also I think managing your risks and knowing where your weaknesses are. Like, I'm a small business owner, and I used to think insurance was just a waste of money. And now I realize, oh my gosh, I need more insurance, because there's just, when you're a small business owner, there's lots of liabilities out there, and you need to make sure you're covered so you can maintain and keep your assets that you've worked so hard for. So we have something called the Financial Planning Association. It's a national organization, but each state and each local community also has their own chapter. So our chapter is the FPA Silicon Valley chapter. I'm currently their treasurer on the board, and there's over 300 plus members. It's a great way to, get your face known. There's lots of presentations. Typically, we meet at Maggiano's at Santana Row. We'll have a lunch. There's a networking session before, and then over lunch, there'll be a presentation on a professional development topic. So you'll get to.
I think the next slide, maybe. I think we have this on the next slide. Yeah. Here you go.
So it's open to CFPs, of course, but it's also open to students. And as a student, you get a discounted rate. There's lots of benefits in terms of, if you decide to be a member, you do get to attend. If you pay the annual membership fee, then you do get to attend the professional development sessions at a much discounted rate. So you definitely get your money's worth if you do decide to do the annual membership. I would highly encourage it. I've met a lot of really nice, wonderful people in the profession. There's opportunities for you to be engaged with the board if you want to, or like they're seeking a program director right now. So if you can be as engaged as you want to, or you can sit back, right, and just be an observer. Again, it's anything else? Do you want to say about the CURE scholarship?
Yeah, so yeah, CURE is one of the, they're educational, they provide education for programs. They have textbooks, et cetera. They also do, as Renee mentioned, the study courses at the end where you need to take a review class. They're one of the providers. There's 4 big providers of these study review class. Anyway, they provide a scholarship to one of their face-to-face sessions. I'm sure they're doing them on Zoom right now, but they have like 4-day review sessions, and they provide the materials, and they help you prepare to take the exam. And this is about $1,000 value. That's what the coursework, what their program costs. And CURE offers a scholarship for each one of those 3 exam cycles, the March, July, November, to every single chapter in the country. So that means that three student members from the Silicon Valley FPA per year could earn one of these scholarships. So there's definitely, there's some value here. So
I would also say that if you are a member, you get a discount on your CFP exam. I think I got like $200 off. So that more than paid for my membership.
especially given the student membership cost, I think is $50 right now a year. So it's a really good deal.
And then there's volunteer opportunities where they have financial planning days at the local libraries. So you can help out with that. And then there's firm tours where you can go visit different offices to see what kind of environment or setting you might want to work in. You get to talk to real actual CFPs who are maybe running their own business or their own RIA. So there's just tremendous opportunity, and I would really encourage everybody to join FPA.
Okay, so the classes that we are offering this January are the applied math, and that's an intro class. So again, if you're getting a certificate and want to sit for the CFP exam, you have to follow a certain order. If you're just a student taking it for your own interest, you don't necessarily have to follow the order, but for the certificate, you need to either take math or survey first before entering the rest of the classes. These classes are the foundational classes. They'll prepare you. Like knowing the financial planning calculator is essential for investments. So if you enroll in investments and didn't have that down, you would be struggling. So there's a reason that we have these two prerequisite classes. The math is being offered in January. And then we also have estate planning that's being offered this January with Rich Dayton. He's a well-known local estate planning attorney. And I think these are the classes that we're planning to offer in the spring. And you can check back, later if you decide to skip the winter quarter and enter in the spring. The board mandates our curriculum, the CFP board, and survey is definitely a required class given by the CFP board.
So I think a clarifying comment here is that you need a certificate from a board certified program in order to sit for the exam. So in order to complete the certificate at the UCSC extension, to have that certificate to be able to take the exam, you need to complete the 8 classes that Renee has listed, which includes both the math and the survey class.
I think that that's the majority of our students. I would say I'd say there's like 25% of our students take it for their own knowledge, or I actually have a few students who said, I was misled by somebody in your industry, so I needed to go and take classes and figure this out for myself. And then I would say about 40% or 50% are career changers. And then the rest are maybe another 25% are already in the industry.
Like, is there a prerequisite, like you need to apply or, complete some application? The answer is no. You've got a credit card, you go to the website, you sign up for the class, you pay, you're in. My youngest student was 17.
You'll have to buy a textbook and a calculator. So I have this, it's probably less than $10 now, Texas Instruments BA. I think I've had it like 15 years. It's a good investment. If you're planning to get a certificate, it's highly advised that it's required that you go in order and take the prerequisites. I'll make exceptions though. We've had to be very flexible under COVID, and we haven't been able to offer as many classes as we typically do and things like that. So if you were really, if you had already kind of a base knowledge of the industry, I would permit you to take both at one time without taking survey. But if you want the certificate, you definitely have to go back and take survey.
I wouldn't recommend taking those two together. It's estate planning and math, right?
Right.
And so unless like Claudia said, you have background in either, they're going to take more time for you. I'd say get your feet wet first, do one course.
If you're working full-time, I would not recommend taking more than one class at a time, because there is homework. And, if you want to do well in your classes and you want to learn the material, you really need to sit with material.
Without some understanding or some interest, like, I constantly curse the estate planning. I mean, I get way involved in estate planning, and I constantly curse it. And my joke is, if I wanted to be an attorney, I would have gone to law school. the rationale behind the order of this will make sense, you know, if and when you sit in that survey course, because really the idea there is to kind of help everybody understand how all these, what seem to be unconnected, you know, professions in and of themselves, how they're all interrelated. And I think having that oversight and having that knowledge and getting a little bit of exposure to each one of these topics, if you've got no exposure to it previously, really helps when you get into the nuances and the detail of each course.
I really appreciate everyone who came out tonight. I wish I could see your faces and get to know you personally. I really thank you for being here, and I hope to get to know you in the program. So don't hesitate to email me or any of us. We're here to help, and we're glad that you made it.